All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to check. I have my I'm so sorry, you guys, but my dishwasher is going, and so I just want to make sure you guys can't hear it. So I'm just going to mute this for a second. Okay, I think I'm going to move into another room while I do this. This is going to be a long one, so you guys go ahead and grab your. Okay, I think I'm going to move into another. Oops. You guys go ahead and grab something to drink or to eat, or if you're driving, you can go ahead and just put this down. Or if if you're cleaning or whatever, you guys can go ahead and do that because this is going to be one of my longer videos. This topic is extremely important to me, and I'm quite passionate about it, and I've wanted to talk about it for a long time because I've come to realize that weight loss, health, not just for women in general, but for Black women too, is so psychological and mental, and that we have been burdened. I hate to use that word, to the point where we are numb and our fight or flight has been activated to such a sense that we feel hopeless. And I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about some really genuinely helpful solutions for this as well. Yeah. Okay. So let's start with, and I'm sorry I'm not on camera today, you guys. I just didn't have time to put on a face or do any of that stuff. And we've got a lot going on over here. So I just didn't really feel like getting on camera. So we're going to talk about first what is psychological warfare. And then I want to talk about how this relates to your health, because we have to talk about this, particularly as social media. I know people are always like social media, but particularly as social media increases, the more that people are chronically online, I believe the more psychological welfare is going to be able to be utilized, and it's going to affect our health in ways that we never even thought. Just this past week, I saw so many people posting about how heavy they feel, not even like bodily, but spiritually heavy they feel because of what they saw in a span of a week, right? You saw someone murdered on a plane and then assassinated in real life. And your mind was never meant to see that kind of thing. Like, we were never meant to see that kind of violence back to back to back. Like, watching someone actively lose their life was really meant for military personnel and not meant for the average human being. And so this video is inspired because I saw so many women, even my clients, were like, Joe, like I feel heavy. I feel a little bit numb right now. I feel a little bit anxious. And I myself have had to go through a somatic process to just kind of uh, bring myself down from the high of whatever was happening. And just, we were all put in fight or flight for a week, which again was really reserved for military personnel. So I want you guys to also have empathy for, like, this is how a lot of people in the military feel all the time, right? Because they are engaged in this for weeks and months at a time. And so bringing yourself back down is really, really important. But that's just kind of an aside. So let's talk about psychological warfare. So psychological warfare is basically being exposed to threatening or shaming or fear-based messaging. And it doesn't even have to be real. It can be imagined. And I believe when the Bible says that you need to be careful, like, think on things that are pure and righteous and holy, and to be careful what you listen to and who you are around and what you're thinking, is because even if something is not intended to be fear-based or intended to be shaming or undermining, you can feel like it is, right? And because of that, your body has a stress response. So, for example, we all know that the media loves and thrives on blood and guts, right? So persistent media negativity and racial stress along with like workplace bullying that people, workplace discrimination, family shaming, and these like nonstop catastrophic, particularly on social media. Like once you get into the doom and gloom algorithm, it's really hard to spin yourself out of it. That's why I love YouTube, because it does push different content. Whereas like Instagram and TikTok really suck you into one side of TikTok. Like I always am having to like push myself back into deep sea, like North Sea TikTok, because that is like a more calming place to be than like doom and gloom TikTok. And so I have to like, just being aware of that is really important, that these things are affecting you whether you can feel it or not. What happened this past week was just on a massive scale, so it felt heavier, but you're sort of like chipping away at yourself when you're constantly watching the news and constantly reading articles. Or if you're on X or Threads and you're just constantly hearing negativity, that is a form of psychological warfare that either unintentionally or intentionally is being pushed upon you, and it is affecting your health, and not just like your blood pressure and your hormones, but like your weight too, because those kinds of things can cause you to feel helpless in one area, and that helplessness sort of transcends into all areas of your life. So one of the big pieces of psychological warfare is propaganda, and I hate to say this, but essentially anything and everything we listen to is propaganda. And that's why I think it's so important to have strong boundaries around what you allow into your mental and emotional space. Okay, because if you're only seeing a certain narrative and you're getting repetitive messages, they feel like truth. And I'm here to tell you that a lot of these messages are not truth. For example, like, let me give you a benign thing that's kind of related to weight loss. The fact that there were so many tirzepatide, Mounjaro, and Ozempic ads, that's propaganda. That makes you believe that that's that's the only way to solve this weight loss issue. Right? So you're constantly being bombarded with people who are using tirzepatide, Mounjaro, and Ozempic to lose weight, and you start to believe that that's the only way to do that, right? And so now you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have to get Ozempic, I have to get Mounjaro, I have to get tirzepatide. How else am I going to lose weight? That's just one example. Can you imagine if your feed and your news was filled with people who had all lost weight naturally? Then you would think that, oh, I can lose weight naturally. Like there's nothing, I don't need a medicine for that. And that's not a condemnation of using weight loss medication. It's just the truth. So understanding what messages you're constantly receiving and what your brain is perceiving as danger is really important. I have another video coming out on self-awareness, and how self-awareness isn't just knowing what you're thinking. Self-awareness has 6 different components. And one of those components is recognizing when your brain perceives danger and being able to say, you know what? I'm safe right now. I don't need to be feeling this. This chronic stress that you're feeling from whatever the propaganda is, whether it's, America's falling into a black hole. Well, duh, we know that as if you're a believer, you know that the world is, yeah, it's spiraling. But if you're constantly being bombarded with negative information, you're going to be in a state of hypervigilance. And you're going to lose trust in your family members and your friends. And every day feels more overwhelming than it actually is. And I believe that this is what happened during COVID. And this is why so many people gained so much weight, because it felt like every day was super overwhelming. And the unknown and we were constantly being, bombarded with news, negative news, people dying, death, destruction, riots. And that stress in and of itself has a negative effect on your will to live. And by will to live, I don't just mean like I want to get up out of bed every day. It means like I want to do things that are going to help me thrive. And that's scary. So a next component is fear and intimidation. And this kind of goes right into the propaganda, because propaganda can be good or bad, right? And this was something that I learned way back in history class, right? Propaganda can be good or bad, but the propaganda that you are being exposed to oftentimes creates fear and intimidation. So when you're in fear, your body is in a fight or flight system, and you're not meant to be in fight or flight system. So if you're scrolling through social media or you're watching the news and everybody's telling you that there's war coming, that no one's ever going to be able to buy groceries, the price of groceries are going up, the stock market is horrible, all of those things which may be true, you're still imbibing that information on a constant basis. And you're constantly being intimidated from the media, the workplace, your personal environment. And that just keeps your nervous system on high alert. And then on top of that, I remember prior to learning how to regulate my nervous system, because I was told all the time, like, okay, well, these people are racist and you can't do this, you need to do this. I was in a constant state of vigilance because I was in fear of, oh my gosh, are these people racist? Are they going to say this to me? Are they going to say that to me? And I'm sorry, but I had to get out of that mindset. I had to learn how to find places for myself where I wasn't feeling that. Because you cannot constantly live in fear and intimidation of what's going to happen. When you are constantly exposed to fear, this leads to anxiety and depression and high blood pressure and sleep problems. And your ability to make decisions or focus gets weakened. So you guys, you've heard me speak for years on sleep and how important that is for weight loss. You've heard me talk about high blood pressure and how once you're on a medication, sometimes you have to get on another one and another one and another. And pretty soon you can't do things because you're on so many medications. I need you to know that this is affecting your health. And I'm going to talk about some solutions to this. I will, I promise. But I have to explain how this is working right now because it's so apparent to me that we are under psychological warfare and it's affecting our health. The third piece of this is division. You guys, I'm going to take a sip of water. Sorry about that. Division is something that I'm seeing increasingly more. I want you guys to notice how it is becoming more and more common to cut family and friends off. You guys, and I'm dead serious. The amount of people who are like, well, I don't talk to my friends anymore because they voted this way. Or I don't talk to my friends anymore because she said this thing to me. Well, I don't talk to my mom anymore because she raised me this way. I'm so sorry, but you are mentally weak. Mentally weak people can only be around people who agree with them and think like them and placate them. I'm obviously not talking about someone who's been, there's been some sort of abuse or something like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about general, like people just cutting people off. I had a couple instances recently where I noticed some things about someone who calls themselves a friend. And I was like, oh, this is off, right? And I had two options in that moment. I could cut them off or I could demote them. And learning how to demote people, like demote your family. That doesn't mean you never talk to them again, but don't give them as much power in your life. But cutting off your entire community is stupid. When you start to promote division, it isolates you from supportive communities. And those are essential for resilience and health. You need people around you. And a lot of people are becoming isolationists where they don't ever see people. They go to work, they come home, they stay online, and they feel like they have community and they feel like they have friends, but they never see people in real life. And you are become demoralized. So you're feeling powerless and hopeless. And all of this has been linked to chronic fatigue and depression, by the way. When people feel divided, like, oh, I don't talk to my family and I don't talk to my friends, they're less likely to pursue healthy habits or advocate for themselves or connect with others, which worsens both mental and physical health over time. So again, get yourself in a community But like the psychological warfare right now, you guys, is teaching people that they don't need anybody. And we have all of these parasocial relationships that are not real. Like, you need friends, you need people around you to support you, to uplift you. Have we learned nothing from COVID? Have we learned nothing from COVID that you cannot thrive in isolation? Your mental health and physical health deteriorates. That is really, really important, is to stop. Don't let the division take place. I'll take it a step further. There was a time, you guys, and I don't know what the age of my audience is who's listening and who's going to be listening to this video, but you guys, I'd like to remind you that there was a time in our planet where people had voting parties. So some people would wear their little donkey hats and some people wear their little elephant hats, and they'd all talk about politics and they'd hug each other and go home at the end of the night. But even in the last message from our vice president, he was like, you can't reason with these people. And I'm thinking, that's actually not the way that we need to be handling this. We actually need to be figuring out how to have conversations with people instead of dividing ourselves from people. When you separate yourself from people, you instantly become demoralized, which is the fifth point, because you start to believe that everyone's wrong and you're right. And to the point now, hold on, a lot of people can't even be friends with people because the minute someone disagrees with them, even if they agree on 90% of issues, they can't be friends with them. Do you guys see how crazy that is? That I can agree with someone on 90% of things, but if the 10% I don't agree with, that means I have to cut them off, which means I'm never going to be friends with people. I'm never going to be in community with people because I can't handle differences. And now I start thinking the whole world's racist, or the whole world's, blinded by the truth, or the whole world's dumb, or the whole world's like, I start to think there's nobody like me, and you're sucking yourself back into a hole. And I don't think we realize this is what we're doing to ourselves. And all of this is causing us to be weakened in decision-making skills, to be weakened in joy. Like, I see people are depressed. When you're depressed, you don't want to eat healthy. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to exercise. You don't want to take care of your body. You have to wake up. You have to wake up. The last thing that I want to talk about is the repetition. And this is really, really important. If you're a believer, I need you to find one of the things that I love to do is I like to listen to prayers that other people like on YouTube. I like to listen to prayers. So there's a prayer that I listen to for my husband. There's a prayer that I listen to for my business. There's a prayer that I listen to just for life in general, for spiritual warfare, for all of it, right? And I like to listen to prayers. Of course, I have my own prayers, but I like to listen to them because I want to know what other people are praying for, And that has been so helpful for my mindset. Because right now, we are constantly being the repetition, right? So the repetition comes in the form of news media. So if you guys notice, they're all saying the same thing, by the way. That should be weird to you. They're all saying the same thing. They're using the same phrasing. They're all saying the same thing. That is weird. You go on threads. Once you like a thread, all of a sudden, you're reading threads on the same topic. Same thing with X. Same thing with TikTok. Same thing with Instagram. So you're getting a triple dose, quadruple dose, quintuple dose of negative repetition. And the brain is wired to learn through repetition. So when negative ideas or this divisive messaging is repeated over and over, it literally carves these grooves in your brain to where it's hard for your brain to think otherwise. So even if you don't fully agree, repeated exposure kind of makes these harmful ideas feel normal or just the way things are. And this shapes your beliefs and your emotions, furthermore, without you even realizing it. without you even realizing it. You like, this is why, you guys, people laughed when that man died, because they didn't realize that they had been conditioned to hate and to dehumanize. They didn't realize it. And then they're like, wait a minute. Oh, I guess there's something wrong with me. Yeah. You spent too much time with the repeated message that that side is are Nazis and terrorists and all, and you dehumanize them. And you have lost your humanity because again, let's go back to the division. I'm dividing, I'm taking myself away from people who don't think like me. Then the messaging that I'm receiving is they're not worthy of life. And so I'm okay if they die. Let's take this to weight loss. Again, how the demoralization that has come from the push of GLP-1s is significant. It's significant. People are demoralized about weight loss. When I talked about Serena Williams, I said the amount of women on Threads and X who were like, wow, if Serena Williams needs a GLP-1, then we're all lost. That is demoralization, my friends. That is demoralization. That's crazy that you would think that you can no longer lose weight because you've seen 500,000 ads for a GLP-1. So you have become demoralized that the only way that you can get this weight off is by a GLP-1. That's crazy. That's crazy because the repetition has gotten to, it's come into your brain. You're not seeing enough of the people who lose weight without it. So you've been demoralized. You don't think that it's possible. And because you hang out by yourself and you don't have friends, you don't know people who have done it because you don't go to the gym or to a community workout. You don't know. Just something to think about. So I want to talk a little bit more about the health aspect of this. And then I want to talk about some solutions. So when you are constantly under psychological warfare, it affects you physiologically, okay? Which means that you're struggling sleeping. The amount of people who came up to, who's told me this week that they were struggling sleeping was insane. When you are under psychological warfare, you are ruminating, you have anxiety, your sleep is poor, your hormones, your hunger hormones are on overdrive. So you may find yourself eating more because things are dysregulated. Stress also reduces insulin sensitivity. So this changes where your body stores fat, and it also messes up your hunger and satiety feelings and signaling. So if you're constantly stressed because you're under psychological warfare, you are having a direct effect on your metabolism. Remember, insulin sensitivity is how quickly does your blood send out, your pancreas send out insulin to take the sugar out of your blood, right? If it's slow to do that, then we start to have problems. Your blood sugar is high. And stress itself reduces your ability to sense when you need to send out insulin. This is deep. This is deep. We're like, well, why can't I lose weight? Why is my belly sticking out so far? Because baby, you're under psychological warfare and you don't know it. When you're under an insane amount of stress, right? Which is what happens when you're constantly being hit with fear and intimidation and propaganda and demoralization content. Your body raises inflammatory cytokines. Those are inflammatory cells, essentially, and they increase your chronic disease risk. Your body never goes into rest and digest. It's always in fight or flight. Rest and digest is when all the magic happens. When your brain relaxes, when your body relaxes, when your mind relaxes, when things get to recover. And when you are constantly putting yourself in a mindset or in front of a phone that is quite obviously propaganda, you find yourself in this situation. The other thing that happens is a lot of people start emotional eating and binge eating. They don't realize it though, because they think that's just who they are. No, it's because you're anxious. It's because you're anxious. You're using food to soothe you because you're feeling anxious from everything that you've been watching and listening to all day. And so you binge on donuts and burgers and ice cream and pizza and rice, and nothing wrong with rice inherently, but you're doing, 10 cups of rice and, jambalaya, just excess calories. Love jambalaya. You shouldn't have 5 cups of it though. You avoid the healthcare system because you've been told, hey, the healthcare system hates Black women. Find a good doctor. Like, these are the genuine things that are affecting your health. I'm so passionate about getting yourself out of the psychological warfare that is happening. It's deep, you guys. And I should have talked about this earlier, but I think the timing is always right. You're in a state of chronic threat. So it zaps your executive function. Raise your hand, you guys, if you feel like, gosh, it's just taking me so long to get things done. I feel like I'm frozen because of what's happened this last week. Yes, you want to sleep in instead of get up and go to the gym. That is part of psychological warfare. And we have to be mindful and aware of that that's what's happening. And of course, if you're in a constant state of fear, you're going to turn to your favorite coping mechanisms: alcohol, tobacco, junk food, quick relief. Do you guys see it now? How this is why we're just getting larger and larger and larger as a nation? It's not because y'all can't afford food. You guys, I've got to record that video too. So I live in California, by the way, which means our groceries are more expensive than everywhere else. And I just did a DoorDash Walmart buy to spend $200 on food for a month for 3 to 4 people. And I need to record it because I put them all in my basket and I figured out all the meals, and I need to record that video because it's not that people can't afford food. People are emotionally paralyzed. They're emotionally paralyzed. They don't feel like they can do it because they're under this the heavy blanket of propaganda is telling them, just give up. Just give up. Here, the world is going to hell in a handbasket. There's nothing you can do about it. You have the worst president in the world. You live in the worst country in the world. Everything is terrible. And you guys, I used to live in Korea, South Korea, obviously. And my sister actually just came back and we were talking about it. And it looks great. I mean, it was a fun place to live, but there is something very disturbing about that country. And when I came back from Korea, I realized, wow, the United States it's awful. Yeah. But I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I don't have the opportunities that I would anywhere else. And so I was like, I got to make the best of what I have here. I can't, because I can get all into the fact that, our president has a loose tongue, and yes, racist people exist, and there are microaggressions, and yes, we have all kinds of social issues, and we are in debt and things are expensive. I could get into all that. I can do that. I can sit there and I can soak in it. Or I can be like, what am I going to do about it right now in this moment? Because I could feel myself in the last couple of weeks start to sort of go down this spiral of things are horrible, they're terrible. And then I'm less motivated to work out, and I'm less motivated to go to the gym, and I'm less motivated to eat well, and whenever I want to DoorDash more than I want to cook at home, I know something's going on with me mentally, because my baseline is I cook at home. And I feel good about making meals at home for me and my husband. So I know that whenever I'm under a psychological warfare, I know that, and I start to not want to cook food, I'm like, oh, I need to go reset. And this is deep. This is deep for us as women. This is deep for us as a nation, to understand what's happening and say, okay, I can watch the news. I can go on TikTok. But can I just ask you every week to reset your TikTok to cat TikTok, or dog TikTok, or North Sea TikTok? Reset your algorithm to something funny. Reset your algorithm to something good. I just saw a video of a guy. He called out AAA, and his the guy had 2 sons, 3 and 4, and the guy was the AAA agent was acting like the battery was too heavy, so he asked the sons to pick the battery up out of the car. It was the cutest thing ever. And I was like, when did this stop showing up on my timeline? Right? So don't let the constant negativity and the constant repetition of death, gloom, and destruction seep into your brain and cause you to be hopeless and helpless. And I will say this, it's really, really hard to come out of the depths. I think particularly when you're trying to lose weight, it's really hard because you feel like you're already so behind, right? Because you're like, gosh, I've got 40 pounds to lose. I've got 50 pounds to lose. I've got 100 pounds to lose. By the way, I lost 40 pounds naturally, if you guys didn't know. And it's so hard when you're being bombarded with messaging around what you can and cannot do, what you are and are not capable of, how awful this world is. It's hard. It's hard to come from that deficit, because you really are in an emotional deficit when you come to weight loss. If your mind has been on the news and on, was tirzepatide and Mounjaro and Ozempic, again, if that's what your thing is, but there are people who can't afford it. If that's your thing, you are going to feel like nothing is possible. You're going to feel depressed, genuinely depressed. And that is not where we need to be. Long-term, you guys, long-term autoimmune disease, type 2 diabetes, chronic pain, like visceral fat. Okay. You guys, again, why do I have so much belly fat, baby? Because you're watching too much news. You're angry all the time. You're upset all the time. You're sad. You're in grief. And those things are not bad, but you cannot be angry and sad and in grief and vengeful all day long, like some of us are, and expect it not to show up in your body. The body keeps the score. The body keeps the score, and it will show up. So what do we do? What are we going to do about this? And these are things that I have started to implement, that I'm encouraging my clients to implement. Curate your media. Okay. There are people I block, delete all the time. Not people with respectful, different perspectives. I'm okay with people's different perspectives. But if there is a site that is constantly talking about violence, I just shut it down. I watch the news maybe once or twice a week, because I don't want that in my mental capacity right now. I don't have the bandwidth. Some people like to do a 20-minute news window. You need to manage your stress physiology, okay? You need to incorporate these daily micro habits that I'm about to tell you right now to help reduce your stress. 5 to 20 minutes of vagal stimulation. That's your vagal nerve is the one that, your vagus nerve, I guess, is the one that runs throughout your entire body. And that's the one that helps you rest and digest. So You need to do deep breathing for 5 minutes every single day, just all the way in through your nose, 4 counts, all the way out. Short walks outside. I take my dog for a walk at 10, 2, and 6 because I work from home. Whenever I'm home, if I'm out training clients, and I don't do that. But we do like these 5 minutes where I'm outside, the trees are out, I can hear the birds, I see the turkeys, because we have turkeys on the property. I see the birds, I hear the birds, I see the other dogs. Things like that will help you to re-regulate. Have a fixed sleep and wake window. So have a wind down routine. My wind down routine is I turn on my red light, I put on my mouth tape, and I get in bed. And I'm usually lights out within 15 minutes. And I try and go to bed between 9:30 and 10, and I would try and wake up between 6 and 7. Nutrition. Stabilize your blood sugars by having protein and fiber. I have so many videos on protein and fiber and all of that. Avoid like the sugary snacks. Just avoid them. Start to notice your ruminative loops. When I'm coaching children, I always tell them the complaint counter is closed until 10 minutes before practice is over. You can complain the last 10 minutes of practice. You can set yourself up that same way. I can worry for about 20 minutes a day, and then I move on. I can worry about it, and then I can come up with a solution. You have to connect with people. When you're in a social safety net, it reduces the physiological threat. You don't feel as threatened. And if some of you guys, and I believe that this is a lot of people. Some of you guys need trauma-informed therapy. You guys need to join some community support groups. There are grief groups that you can join. There's, Narcotics Anonymous groups that you can join, or like friends and family of Narcotics Anonymous. Like there's so many groups that you can join if that suits your fancy, right? Your needs. But get in community with people. And you need to do a check-in. Do a check-in at the end of the day or a check-in at the end of the week. And say, am I okay? Is everything okay right now? Okay, what do I need in this moment? Do I need to pray? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to drink some water? Do I need to exercise? Do I need to call a friend? Do I need to talk this out? What do I need to do? Because this psychological warfare is killing you. It really is. And we have to be mindful. And as this ramps up, you guys, you're going to have to take more and more control of your health because it's going to get to be a lot. And you don't want to find yourself just falling victim to the system. You don't want to do that. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like it before you leave. Share, comment, subscribe. Share this video with a friend. Mary B says, so true. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, you guys, I'm off to record the video about the Walmart list that I have so I can talk about affording food and healthy food while you're on a budget. All right, you guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.